Hi, I'm John. Welcome to Twig Archery. Today we want to talk about the Black Hunter longbow that we've carried for 2 years now, and we've had a lot of questions come in over the last couple of years on this. So I wrote down a lot of these questions here so I can try to answer people the best I can here and I know I've learned quite a bit and found out quite a bit about the bow over the last 2-year period. So anyways, we'll start out with the first question here. The first question is a very common one. Where's the Black Hunter made? The Black Hunter is made in China. Most bows nowadays that are under $300, they're pretty much going to be made in either China or Southeast Asia somewhere. There are some bows that are coming from Europe. Some are lower end type bows, but some are also very expensive. So you got a little bit of both coming from over there in Europe. So anyways, the bow originally was designed in 2014, but didn't become very popular in the United States until about the summer of 2016. And of course from then on, the bow has become very popular around the world. I guess one thing I would say right now, while I'm thinking of it, is I will say this. Originally there was one manufacturer of the bow, and we're still dealing with that original manufacturer. But since the bow has become so popular around the world, there's a lot of different companies now in China that are producing this bow. I don't know the exact total. There could be 5, there could be 10 manufacturers that are producing the same bow, or at least calling it the Black Hunter and trying to make it as close as they can to the original one. And that's kind of caused some hassles a little bit, because now we're getting guys calling me who want limbs. They didn't buy the bows from us. They bought them from somewhere else. And there's no guarantee that the limbs are going to fit properly when you get into this situation now. And I guess the problem is that's where you see a big difference in the price, discrepancy here on this pricing going on. Some of these bows I've seen as low as 120 bucks, but we don't know who's making them. We don't know if they're seconds, clones, copies. I don't know what they are, and so we just don't know kind of what's going on, to be honest with you, with all these other companies that are producing this bow now, and they're all putting the name Black Hunter on the bow. In China, apparently this is fine with the government. They don't care. It's all for the people. And in the United States, it would be totally different. If you had the name Black Hunter and you want to register that with the federal government, nobody else can touch that name. If they did and tried to copy it, then they would have a lawsuit against them. But over in China, things are totally different. And so now you have everybody over there producing the so-called Black Hunter bow. So there's where the price change comes in a lot, and quality and things like that. So warranties would be a whole nother issue. So we'll get into that a little bit later. The next question was, is the recurve Black Hunter faster than the longbow? The answer to that would be no. They're about equal up as far as speed. I've chronographed them both, same poundage, same arrow, about same speed. I would give the advantage in shooting, though, to the longbow. That's why we really don't stock the recurves. We only stock the longbow because I just felt that the longbow shoots a little bit nicer. And nothing wrong with the recurve. Don't get me wrong, guys who have the bow, there's nothing wrong with that bow. It's just that I feel that the longbows are quieter and a little less hand shock because they are the modern hybrid type longbow. Next would be, is the Black Hunter string a B50? The question, or the answer to that would be no, it is not a B50. At least not ours. Now, I don't know about all these other companies that are producing this bow. I don't know about those. But ours come with a Dyneema string, which was used by a lot of the top shooters around the world. And Dyneema material is only produced in 2 places, Japan and China. And of course, then they just ship it over here, and then there's manufacturers here in the United States that make strings. So it is a very good string, and I can tell you this much. I do know this from also from chronographing, If you do take the original string off and you put on a Dynaflight 97 Flemish twist string, very good strings, we carry them. They're good strings, but you will lose about 3 feet per second with that Dynaflight 97 string over the Dyneema string that comes with the bow. So I personally have left the original Dyneema on my bow and haven't had no issues with it at all. Of course, I don't shoot as much as I used to, but the bow is about 2 years old now, and no problem. And by the way, this is a Black Hunter down here, even though it maybe doesn't look like it, because the limbs, these were like prototype limbs or bamboo with clear glass. And no, I can't get these for anybody at this time. So the next question was, if I buy new limbs from Twig Archery, will they fit on my riser? And I would say to that, it's kind of tough, but I would say if you purchase the bow from us, I would say they're going to fit pretty decent. If you purchase that bow on a large company on the internet somewhere, there's no guarantees how they're going to fit, if they fit at all. I just don't know on that. So, anyways, that's kind of deal on that limb fit. Next question is, why do we put the Black Hunter on a bow scale? Well, that was a pretty easy one right off the get-go. I've noticed, and this is very common with all low-end type bows, not only Black Hunter, but all your low-end bows. Just because they're marked 40 pounds at 28 doesn't mean that's what they are. Some of them will be 45, 43, 38. You get all wide range in there. I even saw a fellow on the internet who bought a 45 on the internet somewhere, Black Hunter, and it was 59 when he got it. He couldn't even draw the thing back, and then he was stuck with the limbs because he couldn't deal with the manufacturer where they were shipped from, which was straight from China. So that's kind of the issue of that, and that's why we decided I'd put them on the bow scale, because there again, me being a custom arrow builder for 30 years, I know spine is so critical to get good arrow flight, spine of the arrow. And if a guy tells me, well, I got a 40-pound bow, and I figure everything up for a 40-pound bow at 28-inch, 29-inch arrow, and then he gets the arrow, they go, well, these things just aren't flying like they should. I think they should. You know, they're not really flying that well. And, well, I don't really know, and most people don't know what the actual poundage is on that bow unless they purchase it from us. So if they purchase a Black Hunter from somewhere else, there's no telling what it is. It could be a 45, 47, could be a 36, 38, and that would change everything as far as what arrow choice you would go for as far as the spine. So spine is really important on a bow in order to get good arrow flight. So that's kind of the situation with that there, and that's why we like to put them on a bow scale. That way a guy knows we're a pro shop here, and we know then when a guy gets the bow from us, it's very close to what it says it is. And all our bows are put on, I've got two scales. I've got a spring scale and I've got a digital scale. They're both very close. They've both been zeroed in with different weight materials that are exactly what we need to put on there to keep them zeroed in. And so we can't guarantee that, like, if you get a bow and we mark it at 41, if you take it to some other archery shop somewhere or somebody's house or whatever, and you put it on their scale and it comes out 43 or 38 or 9, we're sorry. We have to go with our own personal scales here at Twig Archery because we know they're accurate. We've had a lot of custom bows put on these scales over the years, and I know they're pretty close to being right on the button where they need to be. So the next question was, why do we use a brass knocking point? It's not very traditional. Well, whether it's traditional or not, I don't know, but I know the brass knocking point's been around a pretty long time. I don't know if it started back in the 60s or 70s. I'm not really sure on that, but I know it's back a pretty long time ago because I used to use them when I was a young guy. And they're quick. They can easily be changed from one location to another by the individual or the person who purchases the bow if need be. We don't have time here at Twig Archery to tie knocking points on. Just too much time involved. So that's the issue with the knocking points there. I guess as far as traditional goes, I don't know. I wouldn't exactly call a carbon arrow traditional neither. 90% of your people are shooting carbon arrows nowadays, and to me, they're not real traditional. Don't get me started on carbon. I know it's an old chemical, so to speak, but there were no carbon arrows until the compound bow became invented. So that's basically why the carbon arrow was invented, for compound bows. So not very traditional, in my opinion. Why do we use homemade silencers and ties? Well, we don't really use homemade silencers at all. We use cat whiskers that have been around there again. They've been around a long time. I'm not good enough at cutting with a scissors or a razor blade to get these little fine little things like this here off a cat whisker. So these are manufactured cat whiskers. We do tie them on with a little tie though, and the reason I do that is there again, time. And I've been using those probably since the 80s, the 1980s, and they've held up well for us. Very few complaints on whether they're flying off or whatever. So we continue to do that because it's time involved here, and we can get them on there quick rather than doing this wrapping and tying thing. If a person gets the bow and they don't like the brass knocking point or they don't like the cat whiskers, those are just included in with our bow package. I mean, you don't like them, you take them off and tie your own things on there, and that's, hey, you're good to go. Okay, do I use a bowstringer personally? The answer would be yes, I do. All my bows, I've always used a bowstringer. I guess way back when I was 20, maybe I didn't back then, but the last 30 or 40 years, yes, I've used bowstringer. Even on low poundage bows, I still use a bowstringer on those. It just makes it safer, and it protects the bow from being damaged. So that's why we include a bowstringer, which is actually a very good bowstringer we include with our package. So that's the deal with the stringer. The brace height on the Black Hunter. The brace height on the Black Hunter is recommended at 7.5 to 8 inches by the manufacturer. That's kind of a, I mean, that could depend on the person maybe, but all in all, I would say that's pretty much correct. Once you get down below 7.5 with the Black Hunter, you're going to notice a little more hand shot going on, and bow would become noisier. So the higher brace height is quieter. It's more forgiving, a higher brace height. Also, a little bit of a crummy release, like if you have a tendency to pluck a little bit or whatever, a higher brace height is more forgiving of that. So I have always liked brace height on the Black Hunter somewhere around 7, and I think mine is set at like 7 7/8, and that's where I kind of like it at. 8's fine too. I don't like going much below 7 7/8 on mine. But that's a personal thing also, and you just got to get the feel for your bow to determine where you like it best. But I think you'll find out if you go below 7.5, you get more hand shock going on. The tiller on the Black Hunter. Just had that question come in the other day. Don't hear about that much, but in general, I don't measure the tillers too often. Sometimes I'll check a few, but a lot of times I don't, because these are $200 bows. But what I found is almost all of them have been either even tiller or up to 3/8 less on the lower limb. Could be a 1/4 inch, could be an 1/8 inch less on the lower limb, and generally that's how they're going to be. They just run that different measurement from even tiller to up to 3/8 less. I haven't seen any really that are 1/2 inch different on the bottom, or the reverse. I've heard of some guys on the internet that have had some that were actually reverse tiller, but I haven't seen that here at Twig Archery. Okay. Here's a question here. It's kind of another one you don't hear too much, but will the temperature affect your shooting? It will affect, I guess, it will affect your human ability shooting, whether you're out at 0 compared to 80 degrees. But as far as the bow goes, yes, the heat can affect the speed of the bow. If you have a bow like the normal Black Hunter with the black limbs, and it hangs somewhere outside in the direct sunlight, it's 85, 88 degrees. If it hangs there for a length of time, say, let's say a half hour to an hour, it's going to lose speed. I pretty much guarantee you, you're going to lose up to maybe 5 feet per second. It just would depend on how hot those limbs get, because you can just feel it. I think that's why you'd see the Black Hunter is basically designed for hunting, so we're dealing with cooler temperatures, so you don't have to worry about that quite so much. But in the summertime, if you're going to 3D shoots, it does become a little bit of an issue for you compared to like a bow that has white limbs. Maybe you've noticed that most of your Olympic type bows generally have white limbs or very light colored limbs. You're not going to see, I don't think I've ever seen an Olympic bow with black limbs, because they can't have that change going on with speed, you know, for those Olympic shooters. So white are definitely more stable type limbs for the sun and heat compared to the black, but nobody wants to be out there hunting with white limbs. So let me see here. The knocking point on the string. The knocking point on the string, I generally set them up at a half an inch above center. Now that can vary also depending on the diameter of arrow that you're going to use. If it's a real small diameter carbon or a big fat wood arrow, that would make a little difference on where your knocking point's going to go. But on the average, I set them up at a half an inch above center, and but there again, it's your shooting style. Sometimes it changes things a little bit. If you shoot 3 under, you may have to have that hunched up a little higher. I've seen a lot of different things here with guys over the years. Some guys who are almost identical build, identical draw, identical poundage. One may have his at 5/8, the other one's got his at half inch. It's just something in their style or the diameter of their arrow maybe that's changing that. So while I'm talking about the knocking point here a little bit, if your string does wear down underneath here from going on a lot, snapping your knock on there, and it starts to wear down, your arrow starts getting a little sloppy on there, you can always take some dental floss, tie that on there, wrap that around a little bit, tighten it down. And dental floss is very durable. It will last a long time there, and it makes your arrow snap on a little bit nicer if you're a little bit on the weak as far as snapping on. Because when you shoot 3 under, you want to make sure you're staying snapped on there